Situated in a wide sweeping curve of the River Menam, 20 miles from the sea, Bangkok, the capital of Siam, the only country of farther India that governs itself, and the only important absolute monarchy left on the face of the globe, is a celestial Venice, a city of gondolas and other strange watercraft. This river is its principal street and the main highway between the sea and central Siam. Klongs or canals are everywhere. They run in from the river like arteries from the heart. To drift among them as a generous moon sails through the tropic sky is like floating in a dream. Produce is transported almost wholly by boat, and frequent ferries propelled by languid gondoliers ply back and forth across the river, which cleaves the city in twain. In the bazaars on the east bank may be procured the carved ivory, rubies, sapphires, zircons, and blue-eyed cats for which Siam is renowned. There the lanes present an unending procession of colorful peoples in costumes, a cross-section of Bangkok's million inhabitants. Peddlers roast bananas on their portable charcoal stoves, a delicious tidbit relished by all. Others freeze ice cream, revolving the containers by hand in narrow darkened alleys from which the sun is excluded, but business in the heat, never. Prospective patrons wait under a tree close by, for the ice cream is almost ready. Siamese youth is ambitious. Here it is testing its punching power. Several of these lads have developed into excellent athletes. Though numerous, children do not seem to abound in Siam as elsewhere in the Orient, but they are just as fond of their sweetmeats as are kiddies everywhere. Open-air stalls flourish, whether operated by women or by men. This one offers pineapple, which he is slicing into edible portions. A young lady customer with chalky marks, indicative of her attendance that day at a religious festival, still visible on her pretty face, is devouring a piece with evident gusto. Note here the difference between the clothes of the older and younger generations, betokening a changing Siam. But rice is still dried in the same age-old way, being spread out on a canvas in the sun and raked occasionally. Siam, like most tropical countries, is infested with the deadly cobra, the head of which dilates into a hood when it is aroused and about to strike. This man is a keeper of the cobras at the Pasture Institute in Bangkok, where 200 useful snakes live harmlessly and peacefully in a garden. The reptiles huddle together under concrete domes of about the shape and size of a beehive, just as they do at another famous snake farm at Sao Paulo, Brazil. Once a month they give of their venom, an oily yellow fluid, on a thin glass plate inserted in their mouths. Mixed with distilled water, it is then injected into the blood of a horse, whence as a serum it is drained off and sterilized a year later, an effective antidote if administered immediately against the snake's bite. The cobra, like many another venomous reptile, is amphibian, taking its heaviest toll among laborers in the flooded rice fields. Of Bangkok's 300 Wats, or Buddhist temples, embracing 1/5 of the city's area, the newest and most beautiful is Wat Benchamabophit, better known as the Golden Wat, a veritable jewel, executed in dazzling white Carrara marble from Italy, crowned with chofa of flashing gold, a fine modern specimen of purest Siamese architecture. Chofa are carved rafters shaped like serpents, the tails ending at the ridge in what look like jets of flame. They are characteristic of Siamese temple architecture and are not met with in like form elsewhere. Buddhist priests wearing saffron robes pass from the temple to the contiguous monastery. In a marble cloister at the rear, lodged in an elevated nave, is a gilt image of the victorious Buddha, which has won for the entire temple its designation of Golden Wat. Standing sentinel at either side are Siamese lions, the finest specimens of that particular art extant. 51 bronze statues of Buddha from Cambodia, Burma, India, China, and Japan occupy the arcade flanking the cloister. Nearby is Bangkok's only modern public building, the Throne Hall. Completed in 1919, it is vast, elegantly appointed, and also of Carrara marble. The city abounds with palaces, but the Grand Palace, a square mile in area, is such a castle as might be the abode of a fairy prince. Beauty here is truly riotous. Towers and spires of varying heights, of curious shapes and multifarious color, leave one bewildered, ecstatic. It challenges description, overwhelms imagination. Here lives King Prajadipok, and here he is entertained by his royal opera ballet. The dance, reminiscent of India, Burma, and Java, is performed by clever girls trained since childhood. They writhe, they sway, they advance and retreat with gliding motion, gracefully, languidly, a vision of charm and beauty. Their faces are a layer of white powder, except for coal black eyebrows and scarlet lips. They wear a tapering mukata, or crown, on their heads, heavy golden bracelets on their arms, and garments of stiff silk adorned with precious stones and bangles about their bodies. They are quite young, and as beautiful as members of a race without much claim to beauty can hope to be. Also within the precincts of the Grand Palace is Wat Phra Kaew, the Temple of the Emerald Buddha, the richest in Siam and the one at which the emperor worships. At the three entrances to the sanctuary, pairs of huge demons, or yaga, made of brick covered with glazed tiles, stand a guardian against evil spirits. The Emerald Buddha, which is inside the temple, is 23.5 inches tall, and though always referred to as of emerald, is actually carved of green jasper. Permission to photograph it will not be granted, as it is regarded as the palladium of the Siamese dynasty and state, as essential to their duration and security as was the image of Pallas to the citadel of Troy. Adjacent to the palace, in Wat Pho, the giant sentinels at one of the gates wear top hats and are armed with clubs. Though said to be of Chinese origin, they look more like Celts, and as policemen probably are. Wat Pho is Bangkok's largest temple. It is a chimera of spires, edifices, and color. Nowhere else today is such a sheer fantasy employed. Nowhere else is one so dazzled by sparkling new beauty. Across the river is Wat Arun, from which we see the spires of the palace in the distance, and in the tower a figure of the moon god mounted on his white horse. Rows of demons, or devatas, support the temple on their heads and hands like Atlantes, presumably by their ferocity safeguarding it from evil, and by their great strength upholding its majesty. Wat Arun is also called the porcelain Wat, due to its being encrusted with bits of glazed tile and broken porcelain dishes. Though these cause it to lose something of its beauty on close acquaintance, still it remains unique among Buddhist temples. This cheap plate in 6 fragments once overheard a wag remark, "Something new in China, eh?" To whom it replied, "Yes, I am." Considering its porcelain, its demons and its spires, with its 5 phra prongs or towers, the center of which soars to an altitude of 242 feet, Wat Arun by day or by night is easily the most spectacular of Bangkok's monuments. We leave it glittering in our wake as we sail away to farther harbors.